Very good day, guys. So, by today, we'll be discussing about post quantum cryptography. So, we have come across this quantum cryptography and communication. So, we have seen algorithms that are exclusively meant for this quantum cryptography. So, in the unit one, or when we learn this classical cryptography, we try to say these are the drawbacks, or we can say these are the weak points of classical cryptography. The algorithms that is used in the classical cryptography, like RSA, Diffie-Hellman, ECC, right? So many algorithms. What we have seen in the classical cryptography, that is classical computers, we felt that, of course, it's good for the today's computer, but for tomorrow's, it was a $1 billion question that we do have some loopholes, or if the machine that can do things very faster, then it can easily break all those mathematical stuff of the classical cryptography. So that was we have seen in the classical cryptography. So slowly we were looking into the protocols that is meant for quantum computers, like BB84, E91, then BBM82. So all those protocols that are meant for quantum cryptography, we were very particularly saying that in this quantum cryptography, the data that is not transacted in the quantum communication channel, instead we'll be transacting the keys over the quantum communication channel. So usually in the quantum computer, the data itself will be transacted in the quantum channel, means the data which will be in the nature format like a photon, atom, ion, or superconducting loop, that will be get transacted over the quantum channel. But here in cryptography, we were very particular. We were saying that how we are enhancing the security of the confidential data. So to ensure that we are making the encrypted data that has to be travel over the classical computer, whereas the decryption key, those keys alone will be transacted in the quantum communication channel, so that it will be very secure. In this line, right? So now we have seen all those steps, right? We just don't want to get into the complete recap, right? So we straight away we make ourselves to pitch in this post quantum cryptography. So the terminology post will make us to remember something that related to the post production, right? We can call that post production. We used to in the movie production field or any production field, post production work. They used to say after sales, right? After sales kind of thing. After sales, once the product has been delivered, then after sales, how was the service response that is given by the seller, dealer, manufacturer, right? So these things, something, the term itself, it says post, right? So now we are trying to say this post quantum cryptography, it doesn't mean we have done something in the quantum cryptography, we have reached the height in the quantum cryptography, and it's what a refinement or an extension or a adding further to an completed quantum cryptography work. No, it was not in that way. So we have to persevere in understanding post quantum cryptography. Here it means that, so once the entire the technology, the devices, the machines, what we are using today, right, the classical computer is evolved to quantum computers, right, to quantum computers, right? Now what happened? Now the stranger himself will be using this quantum computer. Just think about it, right? Whenever we are saying that we are moving towards in the updation, we are moving towards a technological lift, then obviously not only the good will grows, the bad will also grows. In that way, now if the strangers or intruders, or in our simple cryptography language, Eve, right? She is being a stranger to include the decrypted, encrypted data and finding a way to decrypt it, right? She might be using the quantum computer, right? And quantum computer, we already know it was very obvious that it will perform, it will outrage the classical computer, and we do know how fast it will be worked. That's what we are keep on discussing from beginning. So now in simple term, the stranger is using a quantum computer. Now how we can protect the confidential or very important data that should be secure, right, with the help of a classical computer, right? Because already it was, even we can say it's a classical or quantum computer, but now the stranger himself or herself is using the quantum computer for what? For stealing the data. So now what is the way? So this post quantum cryptography, right, is the way, it's a propose of technique that makes, after the evolvement of all the machine what we are using today to be have the eventually will be end up in using the quantum computer in down 5 to 10 years, right, which is very common among all the users. Now the stranger also uses the quantum computer. Now how to protect our data even with a classical or quantum computer, but we need some algorithm, we need some step in order to protect those data, confidential data, in order, right, because the stranger now is quite capable of having the quantum computer which he or she can break anything. So this is the area where we are going to focus on how this post quantum cryptography is about, right? So after the quantum computer has been evolved, the stranger now using the quantum computers to decrypt, to steal the data. Now what are the ideas or what are the proposed techniques, right, that makes the data to be more secure, right? That's what we'll be discussing in this particular post quantum cryptography, which is shortly called as PQC. So just for an illustration, right, just understood that sender as usual, right, receiver we are having. So allies, we are having a Bob. The allies will be the sender and Bob will be receiver. Now we are trying to say we use any of the algorithm called lattice based, right, or it could be a code based, or it could be a as hash based, or it could be a multi variant, right, or I can say multi-variant based, right. So these are the algorithm that comes under the PQC. So remember this. So for what purpose we are using this? We are trying to make the data to be very confidential from the stranger who is using the quantum computers. That was the picture illustrate. So the sender is sending the original message, the receiver is going to receive the original message, but now the hacker, now he is very capable to use the quantum computer, so that he have a very super good computer which he can do magic in order to find the pattern, in order to find the what has been stored inside this encrypted that is cipher text in a very faster way. But now we need some algorithm that actually protect from this guy who is using quantum computers. That is very important, right? That's what we are trying to suggest. So this particular illustration shows about the lattice based, right? Just look for one example, lattice based, right? The remaining, it works in its own respective, but here we just discuss about the lattice based algorithm which comes under this PQC, right? So lattice in general we know it's about a points, right? A points, it will be like this, a points. So consider this is the lattice. So now the original message is somewhat residing here. Then all these are noisy data. So this is about the OG, original message, and all these or called noisy data. So this is the key technique behind the lattice base. Not only the lattice base, even in hash code multivariant, we are trying to add the noisy. This is what we can see in this particular image. What we can see is we have the different lattice points. The original message is somewhat like right. It actually falls inside this uh, lattice points, and we are adding so many noise across. Now even with the quantum computer, he can do a magic. He can do some he can use the already this quantum computer will be using a Schur's algorithm or Grover's algorithm, right? These are you can say it's an expert in finding a pattern or even a period, right? Even a period. What actually period, right? So in order to crack down the combination, for instance, right, say for an example, right, we are having n is equal to p into q. Now this n is equal to say like 27 into 29. So now n is nothing but 783, I hope so, right? It may be approximate, right? 783. Now this 783 alone will be given as a public, which will be crossing over the channel. Now we have to find out, right, what is P, what is Q, in which P and Q combination this 783 have been occurred. That's a chill idea over here, right? And this can be easily cracked down by this Schur's algorithm in quantum computer. That's what the speedy way that how the quantum computer works. It just find out the pattern, right? It not like a normal classical computer. It just look for it just compute like 4 into 5 or 22 into 21, and simply it's just iterate and go on. It just find out the pattern. Oh, this is the way, and this easily crack out what is P and Q. That's what the Schur's algorithm. Now we are actually jumping out of the content, right? We are saying this Schur's algorithm is in the quantum computer, where the quantum computer a stranger can easily crack down any mathematical computation, and hence we are trying to use all those stuff called lattice, hash, code, and multivariant based algorithm in the PQC. We are trying to add the noisy data so that stranger, even if he is using a quantum computer, it is very hard, it is too hard in order to crack down with its mathematical abilities to find the original message. And again, guys, we are not saying the drawback of the quantum computer. Quantum computer is ultimate because still we don't have a quantum computers in a day-to-day life, but still we have come up with the proposed idea. Once the quantum computer has evolved and the stranger started using the quantum computers, now what are the techniques, what are the approaches, algorithms can be defined in order to make the data still to be very confidential, even the stranger is using the quantum computer. Hope it's making sense, right? We just keep exploring this PQC. It's very simple, man. Just grasp it.